So we're all probably feeling, at least the feedback that we're getting from our customers is that we're having heightened expectations. Owners and guests all have heightened expectations. There's a lot of owners that are understanding more about how this industry works, and they have more expectations of revenue. Obviously, we're going to have to manage those going into next year. Guests, more expectations of property care, making sure that their homes and condos are being taken care of and their assets are being taken care of. Transparency, communication, all of these things. And that just needs, we need to work smarter, I think, as property managers. And also guests, they're expecting more reliability in their stay. These are people, a lot of guests are first-time guests, maybe in a vacation rental, used to traveling and staying at Hilton's, right? Pretty reliable when you go to a Hilton, what you're going to get, right? And so they're going to expect those things from us, and that puts more pressure on us to deliver to those expectations. And so what our company does is we're a solutions provider of software and services for vacation rental managers, professional managers, particularly focused on enterprise, larger property managers that maybe have somewhat complex operations and they need an enterprise software partner that can help really level the playing field. We've seen these companies, this one, right, come in and they're spending $30 million a year on their software, they say, which is a pretty big investment in building an end-to-end solution to try to solve some of these big, hard challenges like operations and revenue management, et cetera. And so that's what we're trying to do as well. We're trying to solve those problems, working hand in hand with independent property managers, leveling the playing field for y'all to help you succeed in your businesses. And ultimately, we started a partnership with Southern Vacation Rentals back in, I think, 2015, 2016. Some of you in this room are on our customer advisory board, I believe. And so we really think that you all are brilliant and have helped us to build what we think is a pretty good solution for the enterprise. And we're just very impressed with what some of you are doing with the data you're getting out of our software. And we want to keep exposing that data. And for you that aren't using our software, we've got Chad in here that's going to show you some ways they're using this data. Maybe you can get access to this data in your own tools and can use it for actionable insights. So that's what we're going to kind of walk through. Our data set's becoming quite large. We've been really lucky to have some good growth and some good things fall our way over the last couple of years. So we're processing a lot of revenue. We're processing a lot of stays. We're seeing a lot of work orders. We're seeing quite a large data set, and Southern itself has quite a large data set that they're able to give us some really good actionable insights. And maybe you could just give a little bit about Southern Vacation Rentals, where, kind of property inventory that you're managing. And
so Southern was founded in 1995 by a set of brothers, and we're up to about 1,100 vacation rentals. It varies. Me and Jeannie kind of go back and back on numbers, but we are now in most of the Florida Panhandle, from Panama City Beach all the way to Fort Morgan, Alabama. So quite a bit of span on it. And like I said, we joined Track in 2017. We were one of the first, I believe, to really kind of get on track. Renner had an amazing slide deck. We thought it was a done deal, and it had never really been built. It was a lot of learning, but it turned out to be one of the best investments that we have made. But our whole goal is, with 1,100 properties, is to make sure our owners and customers feel like we're still a small company, but yet with big company reach. And that's really what Track has allowed us to do, and I'll kind of get back here in a second.
Perfect. So what do y'all think of when you think of PMS data at the Revenue Management Conference? Revenue management, right? Revenue, occupancy, ADR, all those types of things. And obviously that's a huge part of it. But there's other data sets, typically in a property management software, that a lot of times kind of go unknown, and they touch maybe the biggest cost centers in your business. Operations is a huge cost center, and it can be, a lot of times more profitable than maybe we think. And so really unlocking this data and pulling it out of your system so that you can create actionable decision-making in your business is kind of what we're going to talk about. And we're just going to give some real live examples of this. We didn't prepare Like, this isn't like a super polished presentation,
We
so
talked like 10 minutes ago.
yeah, we're just we're gonna do our best to kind of dive into some examples, and we're gonna specifically focus on the operations and talk about it. But when we talk about data, really what we're talking about, what we do in Track is we can provide what's called a real-time replicate database, and I'm sure some other softwares do this as well. And it's basically what a replication database is. It's essentially instantaneous copying of your data set from your production database to another database that you can plug in business intelligence, dashboarding, data tools into, run your own queries, create your own data sets to understand what's happening in your business. Hopefully that makes sense. Some of the tools that our customers use right now are Tableau, Power BI, which is a Microsoft product that I believe comes included in your
It depends on which enterprise you're on, but yes.
Office subscription. And then Data Studio. Maria's here from Tybee Vacation Rentals. She's doing some amazing things with Data Studio and Track. So essentially what you do is you hook these tools into your various data sets. Now, you can plug it into Track or you can plug it into your PMS, but you could also plug in things like QuickBooks data or Sage Intacct or Google Analytics. You can plug in data sets from, maybe you're using BHome and Track, and you want to plug in third-party data. If they're able to expose it and give you access to it, you can pull in data sets from multiple different sources and then create dashboards that make sense for your business, how you want to visualize the data. And this is an incredibly valuable tool. Salesforce bought Tableau for almost $16 billion, and it's just a data dashboarding. So obviously, Fortune 500 companies, the vast majority of Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 1000, use a tool like a Tableau, use a Power BI. They use these tools because each business is different, and the way you visualize data and you understand what's going on in your business is different. And the reality is no PMS is ever going to satisfy everyone's needs for your reporting. It's just not, right? And so once you hit a certain size, it probably makes sense for you to make an investment into a dashboarding tool or something like that and plug it in. Because it's how data is the way we grow. We have to understand what's happening in our business to make decisions to hopefully operate our business better, more profitably, more efficient, right? So that being said, how this process works is, first you have to be able to get access to a data source. If your database is locked down, or if you don't have API, if you don't have access to the data, then you need to get on an enterprise solution that can give you access to the data. That's the first thing. And so you need to think about that. The second thing is the data sets are pulled in and data models are created. And it sounds complex, and it kind of is. You do have to we have a person, for example, Maria worked with on our team, that all he does is business intelligence. And so, you have to have someone, either maybe you find them on Odesk or Guru, or maybe you find someone that does this in the industry, or, on Fiverr or something like that. But someone that can come in and help build and consult to help build data models. And that's just how you want the data to come into the system. Once you have the data in the system, then you have people that help you build out these dashboards and reports. That's what Chad does. Chad builds a lot of these, all of your reports pretty much you're responsible for, right?
Yes, sir.
Once you have the reports, kind of how you want to analyze it, you run the queries, they come in, and then they're shared with the executive team and your operators in the field and whoever you need to share this data with so that they can better run their operations, better understand how they're performing. Anything to add to that? Is that kind of how you did it?
Yeah, my mom was a lot more stumbling around trying to figure out how it works. So yeah, we got that.
So if you're interested in knowing more about that, you can come ask me or ask Chad, or if you work with us and you want to know how to what's that?
You lost your connection.
You want to know how to do this, just come chat with me and we can talk about it. So with that being said, Chad is the star of the show.
Yeah.
Chad's using Power BI, so we're just going to walk through some examples of what he's doing, which I think are really just very impressive on the operations side of things to work more efficiently. So why did you want to start using I guess a data dashboard outside of the reporting that's just a track?
I found kind of a niche within my company at the time, right, is that nobody really had the analytical tools that we needed. Yes, there's a lot of focus on revenue management. That's a huge part of our business, but there's also different sets of our business that we need to look at, right? So we look at our business on a three-legged approach, basically. We have our owners, our guests, and our properties. And what we try to do is how can we get this information where we can make intelligent decisions quickly without having to dive too much into every time we want to get this data, right? Because everything's always changing in our industry. And so I basically was stumbling across our Microsoft platform, like, oh, what's Power BI? No idea, kind of dove into it, made a career out of working smarter, not harder. But it does work very well. Power BI is just the one platform I've used. I've a couple of friends of mine use Tableau, Google Studio. They all work very similar. It's just kind of more so what you're better at and what you like to really use it with. So
perfect. So the first one we're going to touch base on, this is a data dashboard that's he created off of the data set inside of his software.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what we kind of did was, right, everybody does surveys. For the most part, everybody does surveys, right? And Track has a survey system built within the system. And I was sitting there going, man, this is great. We have good data, but I'm not getting actionables out of this data on the property level, right? So I'm going, I understand that the cleaners, this property's got a 5-star review across the board or a 4.5, whatever it is, but I'm not able to drill down and create actionables off that data. So what we did was we actually got in the back-end data of all the Track information and really started building out Power BI reports off of these. Now, these type of reports, the one that we're looking at right here, what this is looking at is this is actually just looking at unit cleanliness for the year. I think it's filtered out on there. Yeah, for the surveys completed for this year. And what it does is it ranks all of our units by the unit cleanliness, but then the guest feedback tied to that. So what that allows me to do is really get actual feedback on what properties are not being, what properties are getting bad cleanliness reviews in the last quarter. Do I need to make sure I get deep clean scheduled in there? So I can make sure I'm making actual quick decisions off of that. But then I can also drill down at the bottom. As you can see here, you have the ops manager, director of operations, client success managers. So I can drill down to figure out what properties they are, and then you can actually create dashboards off of this data that gets emailed out to these managers every single morning. So they have actual items from there. So it's really taking all the data that's within Track to make us work smarter, make better decisions, and honestly help our bottom line by, I think it was said earlier this morning in the keynote, was a 1-star increase on your reviews equates to 5 to 10% more revenue, right? That hits home on this. So if we can increase these scores and make these better, then what we're able to do is we're actually able to end up creating more revenue for our companies and for the homeowners.
Do you ever share any of this with your owners? If
yes.
They're consistently, how do you use this?
So the homeowners, we have monthly meetings with the homeowners, and basically we go over kind of what the reviews are. Now, cleanliness is more internal for us to say what's going on with our cleaners. More so on the next slide, you'll see where it kind of looks at property conditions. But we do share this with our owners, but mostly this is for our cleaning crews themselves. And to really, I think there's another slide where we actually rank our cleaning crews, and we're able to score them on those. So
how would you do this before you put all this in a dashboard? Like, how would you?
Well, that was the problem, right? You didn't, and you really looked at the overall review that was on VRBO, which VRBO is create an API feed for their reviews for property management companies. So I've been working on VRBO with that to get an API feed on their reviews, so you can actually tie in VRBO reviews to this platform as well.
So you can tie in a VRBO review into the Track
database, so then you can actually have a mash of different reviews, right? So I'm working with VRBO on that because I think that'd be a huge subset for all of us, that if we could have access to that data and not just kind of being there floating on VRBO. But in the past, when I've seen, nobody's really kind of taken the reviews and really driven down into that data, right? And to really create action off of that. So to answer your question, I don't believe anybody had, or did we have it?
You have, yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. And so your ops managers, do you segment, like, your different operations people manage certain areas and they're in charge of looking at these dashboards and making suggestions for changes or deep cleans, or are you managing that from the top, or are you empowering them?
So it's all based off field. Some people call it portfolio managers, field ops managers, whatever you guys call it, right? But they have a dashboard sent up to them every morning that's just with their properties. It gives them yesterday's reviews. It gives them their trending for the month, their trending for the year. And it really allows them to make those smart analytical decisions. But then from the top view, looking down, it allows us to rank our managers and say, who's getting killed on cleanliness, who's getting killed on condition. And what we can do is we can actually make intelligent decisions very quickly and get training out for them. Maybe it's not the right fit for the employee, whatever it is. We can make those decisions a lot faster because we have this. And it becomes more of a proactive approach than a reactive approach is what ends up happening.
Can I ask about the survey situation and how you send those out to your guests and when you get them out?
So, so Track has automations set up within their surveys. So we actually now send our surveys out 24 hours prior to checkout.
Okay.
And the reason we change it instead of at checkout and before checkout, because we can identify any issues that they had because a lot of our properties turn the same day, right? So if they send that review after they check out, well, maybe we don't get that review and the next guest already checked in and we can't make any change to the property. So what we decided to do is do 24 hours before checkout and then we send a reminder if they filled out at checkout. And our response rate on our reviews internally is 48%, which is very, very high response rate on it. But then another thing that we also did was we also do a thumbs up, thumbs down survey via Track. I think it's 18 hours after check-in. So did we exceed your expectations? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Easy question.
Right.
If it's thumbs down, then we have a whole different thing we kind of go into with that. But 24 hours before checkout.
Okay, so you have one that goes to them 18 hours after check-in and then 24 hours out.
Yeah, so they have 2 reviews that I guess.
Interesting.
Cool. Any other questions on this particular dashboard?
So that one was the exact same thing as cleanliness scores, but this one's by the condition of the unit. So when we ask our survey questions, we ask, the average cleanliness of how would you rate the cleanliness of your property 1 through 5? And then we ask for feedback on that question. The next question is, how would you rank the condition of your property? This one is huge and paramount, more so for our homeowners, but also our managers that are in these properties every time that they turn. And the guests grade they grade the property on that point, but we're actually then able to really rank really quickly our bottom 10 properties, right? I think everybody kind of looks at the bottom 10 properties. What's my bottom 10 properties? We can pull that in 2 seconds. We know exactly what they are. And then basically the way Power BI works is if you see all that feedback on the right, if you click, which obviously is not an interactive report right now, but if you click on like .021c, that whole right would actually then, it's not like work, but that whole right-hand side would only show you once for .021c. So it will give you the guest feedback on that property. And what that allows us to do is to then understand any issues. We also do a lot of, within Power BI, keyword searches. So if a property's getting hit with like mattresses or, roaches, whatever it is, right? We can do keyword searches and it will pull those other reviews so we can tell if this property's getting hit with mattress complaints or whatever it is. And we have those conversations with the homeowner. But this is the biggest one for homeowner conversations because if 5 of 7 guests just said, man, the mattresses are uncomfortable, we can easily have that conversation with the homeowner.
Are you dropping this data in on a daily basis, or is there an API?
It's all pulled directly through Track, so it actually is up to the minute accurate every single time. So there's no dropping of any data, and that's the beautiful part about these types of reports with the connection Track gives you to the Renner databases. Once these reports are built, unless Track makes a change to some of their tables, which does happen, the reports always refresh all the time. I think it's within a minute of live data, so there is no more dumping of data. It's always live.
All right. So the next one we'll talk about is the average clean score by property.
Okay. This one is an example of our cleaner dashboard that's in each of our warehouses. And basically, this one is just for this month. And basically what this does is this shows our cleaners where they're at and what the scores of the cleans that they have done for that month, and we can do it for the year, whatever. And then there's a scrolling thing at the bottom that kind of shows them which properties and what their scores were on. This was probably the trickiest report to build by grading cleaners because, say, Lino stayed in a property and he grades it, but I have to grade the cleaner who cleaned the previous reservation, right? Not the cleaner of that reservation. So it got a little tricky. Now, thank goodness most of the cleaners are the same time after time again, but it does change. So we're actually grading from the previous reservation that checked out to what the guest that just left the review on scored it. But what we're actually able to do is we're actually now able to grade our cleaners. And I haven't seen very many people grading their cleaners, but we've seen a huge increase in our cleanliness scores by posting these up in our warehouses. And cleaners, when they walk in, they're like, damn it, I'm the one. Like, that's horrible. Like, and what we're able to do is then top grade our cleaners, right? And that's one of the biggest, we all live or die by our cleaners, at least in my area, right? If we don't have good cleaners, we're hurting. And so this has been a great tool for us to be able to do that and grading those cleaners with with guest feedback, and we have our monthly meetings with our cleaners and say, look, this is what the guests are saying about how you clean. This is where you miss. This is what's going on. So, questions on that side? Yes.
Do you post like on a piece of paper every day, or do you look at TV?
It's a flat screen TV that it's published and updates automatically. So as the reviews are coming in, so when the cleaners come in to pick up their linen bags,
Okay.
they can see it all right
Can
there.
I ask you what software you use to do that? Because we've tried to do that as well, and we can't get anything that needs it in real time.
It's so you have to build it in Power. The way I do it is built in Power BI, and then it's actually you have to build a report through a direct query instead of an import-based model. If anybody builds these reports, you have to do it via direct query, which is basically what I do is, long story short, I take their Replica database, I then copy that in real time to an Azure database because Microsoft speaks in Azure. And within Azure, I can do direct query polls. So I can have that live data all the time, and then this will always feed in real time.
But how does it go on the TV? Like, is that Comcast thing, or how do you get it?
Oh, we have a computer. Like we put it because no one has desktop computers anymore, so we took our whole desktop computers and put it in the warehouses. So then that just becomes a screen.
But how does it go in real time on the TV? Like, how do you? I guess I don't understand.
We just pull that report up on that.
It's a
computer.
browser-based.
It's browser based. Sorry, yes, it's browser based. So it just opened up through
Oh,
Chrome.
that's a good question.
It's just opened up through Chrome, and you just log in Power BI, and it's just there.
Okay.
So Chad, that has you scheduling all your housekeeping through Track.
Yes, we schedule our housekeepers through Track, but this is the great environment.
And again, I think it's important that your software, whatever tools you're using, an important aspect at the enterprise is to have access to your data. And so if you are analyzing your software and you don't have access to your data, you have to think about what is that access worth? And is it worth investing in a tool that just won't ever give you access to your data? And maybe for some, I don't want to do that. Clearly in this situation, I don't know if you can quantify the ROI, but it seems like it's
The ROI is invaluable, right? I mean, you can't really quantify it. I mean, Power BI for us, it was actually part of our platform that we were already paying for our email subscriptions via Office 365. Now, Power BI has a Power BI Pro user, which that's when you kind of get dashboards, stuff like that. That's $10 a user per month. So I think additionally for our company, for all this data, other than my payroll, we're paying $130 a month for all of our managers, or to get display rates when you buy something. So it's like $130 a month for all of our managers to get email dashboards and all of that.
cool. All right, so the next one, average property condition and cleanliness year over year. So here you're pulling.
Yeah, so what this is just more of a line graph, and what this allows us to do is look at our cleanliness. This is property condition year over year. So what this does is this really kind of shows us our trend lines for 2019, 2020, and 2021. So we can kind of know how are we trending each month very quickly as compared to previous years for our condition of properties. And you can kind of see, the overall graph is June, July kind of goes down. August starts creeping back up. Obviously, we're very busy. June, July, it's very hard to keep those scores up high. But on the bottom, we're actually able to rank our ops managers by the completed dates of or the checkout dates of those reservations. So we're actually in this model right here, in a real quick glimpse, we're actually able to grade our ops managers by the condition of properties for this year within just that is automatically pulled. It's already in the report. So,
And I think the key thing here, and by the way, for our company, we sell software and marketing services, right? And so we use Tableau in our company. And Ryan, some of you know Ryan Bailey, our CEO, all of our departments, sales, operations, customer success, we all have different ways that we need to visualize data. And it's not that HubSpot CRM for sales doesn't have good dashboarding and reporting, it does. But if you operate a certain way, or you set certain goals, or whatever it is inside your business, and you need to see that data in a certain way, and you don't want to dig through 4 or 5 reports and manually plug it all into spreadsheets and all that stuff, that's where these types of dashboards become. That's why Tableau was bought for $15.7 billion, because all of the companies on top of Salesforce, it's not that Salesforce didn't have a reporting suite. Obviously, Salesforce has a reporting suite. It's that everyone operates a little bit differently. Your markets are different, your people are different, your data sets are different, your goals, how you define success, etc. And that's where these tools become really powerful. And you really have to be intentional about it. You have to say, I'm going to budget for this, both in the people power, whether it's outsourced, whether it's someone internally that really likes to do it. Again, I use the example of Maria over there with Tybee Vacation Rentals. The stuff that they're creating, I think is just really, but they're being very intentional about it, right? Making the investment to learn how to do this, get consulting on it, because the data that you're able to get out of it and see it, and that how else would you score your property managers if you didn't pull this in?
Well, that's the question, right? I don't know how you do it. But that's why I couldn't figure it out, so that's why we kind of went this direction.
Well, here's what you do. You call your PMS company and you go, hey, can you create me a custom report?
Right.
And then it's
It's
going
like
to be
9
3 months, and it's $6,000, and then we get a call from the next person, and they're like, well, I need to see it this way. Okay, then you change the report, and then you get ticked off that your report just changed, right? You can all relate to that, right? So I think this is fantastic.
And the same thing, this is this cleanliness in the properties year over year by checkout dates. So
how do you get all the different categories? Do you send guys multiple surveys?
So
or
it's just
is it
it's within the one
where
survey.
it's portioned out?
Yeah, it's in the one survey, so they have the surveys, but then the back end and the data, right? You then have the questions and what the answer to that question was, and that's how you break it out. So there's a little bit of what I'm looking for, data, not manipulation, not changing the numbers, but you really have to go into the back end and really figure out what data lies where. So that is a bit of a process.
And then that's something that you manually have to do, or
No, once you do it one time, you manually do it the first time you build it, but then going forward, as long as track doesn't change anything, it works better.
What do you say, Chad?
it worked, but it works perfectly. Like these reports were built. This report was built probably 9-10 months ago, and I haven't touched it since it was built. So it just refreshed automatically. And the build time for me now on one of these reports is maybe about 4 or 5 hours.
Maintenance work order roll up.
Yeah, so kind of the same type of thing. This is what we're looking at here is just average completion time of work orders, average age of open work orders. And this is just another aspect of our business, kind of looking at the properties part of it, but really taking all that work order data that we kind of just assume that's just work order data, but really getting analytics on that and another benchmark for our ops team to really look at it also by property level, what's going on, and we can really drill down to see who's got the best average completion time on their work orders or who's got the most open. We can really drill all of this down, and this is just a real quick glimpse. All these reports only have 3 or 4 other pages behind it where if you want to dive deep, you can. These are just more of the high level type things on it.
Chad wasn't going to give you all the secrets.
No, Gene didn't. I'm doing it because. So this is what I'm talking about right here. So these are work orders by property. So now what we'll do is take a look and see which properties are getting hit with the most work orders. What's going on with that property? You can click on Cozy Beach Bungalow, which had 19 of them, and hopefully that's not the one. But you click on Cozy Beach Bungalow, and then on the right, all those numbers on the right-hand side will change. It will then focus on Cozy Beach Bungalow, and you can really figure out, is it parking? Most of them are parking pass issues, right? So we got to go, man, we're doing something wrong with parking passes on this one particular property. We got to make sure we have those in there, and we can make those operational changes very fast. Or if a property's just outdated, and we just say, look, we're getting way too many work orders for this property. We need to have that conversation with the homeowner. You need to upgrade this, or go to Newman Daily. But no, in reality, this does help out very significantly for us to make good internal business decisions. Because what Renner was saying was,
So I use Google Data Studio, so I'm just trying to. So in Google Data Studio, let's say I could click on BIPOC somewhere, and all of those charts would change.
Correct.
So it would only show the problem types that property
Yeah,
had.
that's a true statement.
So that's something that's, I think, very important in these tools is to drill down is just a matter of clicking on it. So if you have a question in your mind, it's been built to answer those questions very quickly and very easily.
And if anybody wants to see the live data on this, please come find me afterwards. I can log in my account and actually show you how the actual reports work internally. Yes?
How easy is it to adjust your reporting if you have a home switch an owner and a new name pops up?
So at that point, because it's a feed, it will automatically detect it, and it will change it all automatically for you.
And if you just have a brand new house that comes in, can you just go back in and add that home?
You don't have to add it. So once you add it in through track, it will add it onto your units table and it'll automatically pull in this report. So there is no manual entry once the initial report's built.
So to track year over year data, so let's say we have surveys that have already been ran,
Mhm.
how would you implement that into the system to be able to keep track of year over year?
So a lot of it just has to do with the completion date. I think I mentioned this right. As of the completion date of the survey, but all that data is still within track. Track never gets rid of any of the data. So once you log in, you will see hundreds of thousands of rows of data, and then basically it's just making those connections on. I want to sort this by the completed date on the surveys, and then when you do it by completed date, you just put on a hierarchy of years, months, whatever, and then that's how you get the year over year. Answer that correctly. Does that answer your question?
It comes down to selecting the data points that you want.
Yes.
Right? It's like making a pizza. You know, you know what kind of pizza you want, so you got to get the sausage and the cheese. And I'm the king of terrible metaphors.
I think
But it really is that it's daunting and it seems complex and it kind of is. But once you know, then you're just saying, well, what do I want to see? What do I want to? I want year over year. Okay, then on one column or one line, we're going to put we're going to pull this data point 2020 surveys for this data set, and here's 2021.
I think
Right,
what
for
she's
a new
asking,
for a new integration,
yeah, if
how
she's-
would you, so I have past surveys from 2019, 2018,
Right.
and I want that pulled over into this new system. How
Oh, data import from like an old software.
Within track or
because I need
different
to
software?
compare my year over year, so
Yeah.
Is it within track or is it in a different software?
different software.
What? Yeah. So
You could dump it into.
You
a
could
Google
dump it as
sheet.
long as you have access to the
Like
data.
this.
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be.
Yeah.
that's the
Just
benefit.
by like keywords or, I mean,
Well, so first of all, I'd encourage you to reach out. Do you use our software? Sorry, no. So if your software can give you access to the database, or you're looking at moving to a different software, a lot of these like Tableau, Power BI, you could dump the data like you dumped it into Azure. You could upload CSVs, or there's other ways to upload data into these systems to mix old data with new data sets.
And that's the beautiful part about these systems is you can have data sets from everywhere. You can tie in your track data to Google Analytics and tie them together. Track to Be Home 24/7. You can tie them together and get actions off those items. So it's not just that one data set. So as long as you have access to that data and those data points, you can dump those into like an Azure and never update it again. It can just be a dead database.
Yeah, it's just 0 here.
Yeah, that's good. So.
The key thing is, and I would just encourage you, and this is a little plug, yeah, it's a little plug, but, when you think about software, like our industry is transitioning into this new era of software where you're getting better software, better architected systems, more access to data, things of that nature that you can do more with than you used to be able to do, right? And there's really good examples of that here, vendors that are here. But if you don't know this is possible, then when you're analyzing the software that you're going to go with, you don't even realize the value that's sitting there. And that's why it's the hidden data, right? It's the hidden value that's in there that can help you operate a better, more efficient, more profitable business that you really need to think about and consider when you're considering the ROI of the software that you're planning on purchasing. I don't care what kind of software it is, but you need to consider it because this data equals money.
Another tiny vacation rental, folks. Sorry, we don't mean to dominate the conversation here. But I would also encourage, beyond using this as a data management tool, we really have enjoyed being able to pull information together in a way that's more usable than the way that the dashboard is set up in track. So to use an example for homeowner arrival, we have notes on homeowner preferences built into their contact information. So we have one that Maria graciously built for my team that has upcoming owner arrivals, and along with their owner arrivals has specific notes about their preferences, about how they like their property, and that's available to their property manager so that they can see, and that's changing. So when we have a conversation, a homeowner calls, that call comes through track, the person can add in notes right away, it's immediately populated, and so we know they've got to pick up a package, or they're expecting this change in furnishings or whatever, that stuff is easily found without somebody having to go hunt it up.
That's really smart.
Yeah, I think the key too is that, so as an example, Dusty wanted to identify on how many properties that were premier, they're actually premier owners. So there's no place to track to say who's a premier owner. So we created a custom field in the owner record that says premium property, and then had somebody just go through and click the ones that were. And now we pull that. So when Dusty does his arrival report, there's actually a place where he can click, just put an X in there, it clicks, and then it'll only show the properties that are premier.
Right.
So he can tell when his premier owners are arriving versus, you know, maybe
So what you
and
did
so
was,
we customized the database.
yeah, you
Yeah.
created a custom field inside the software, tagged it so that you could see it in action with your
expose it.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
Is this something that you've used in acquisitions as well to show these reports about look how we're tracking our people, look how we're tracking like what's going on with your house? Because I would feel like that would be, especially in
new
my
property
area.
acquisition, yes, it's a huge selling point for us with new property acquisition. You know, and one of the biggest, kind of went through the takeaways here, you know, but one of the biggest takeaways are the possibilities here are endless, right? If you think it's something that's going to be good for your business, now you have to be strategic about it. But if you think about it, you can build it, right? And that's the biggest key about this is you can do it. And maybe not you personally, but you know, it can be done, and it really helps out with the business, and it makes all these things so much easier. And it's not, and I know this is, you know, we talked a lot about revenue management, but this is a huge other part of our business that I hope doesn't get neglected because it is very valuable for everyone. Any other questions? Oh, we have time.
That's it.
All right. If anyone see the reports, just let me know. We're happy walking back through them.
Great job.